Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's great to be with you this Friday. Today is July 18th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings, talk about the grant, the three mandates, how we help entrepreneurs access capital, and of course, how we work with our distribution partners to get paid for facilitating that. Today, we're going to talk about a specific use of funds. So, when clients are looking for business funding, they need a fundable business. We've covered that many times before. Now, once they have a fundable business, which we can deliver to them in about 7 days, and the Shelf Corp's free because of the grant, but we've covered that in other trainings. But once we have delivered that in about 7 days, now we're ready to sit down with the client and determine what do you want money for? A lot of times they want working capital, which would just be cash, and that's fine. Sometimes they want money to acquire a business or start a franchise. Those are different examples of uses of funds. The one we're going to talk about today is real estate. Now, what we're not talking about is consumer real estate. We're not licensed mortgage loan brokers, so we're not facilitating residential real estate. Now, could it be a residential property bought by your business or by the client's business? Of course. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. Screen is shared here. We're going to talk about 100% real estate financing. And the lead-in question is, do you know anyone needing real estate financing? Now, that's a bit of a loaded question, right? Many of you are opening new branch offices. If you're going to have a branch office, then you need to make a decision. Do you want to lease an office and pay someone else's mortgage, or do you want to own your own real estate and build equity? Yeah, regardless of your interest in the branch, any business owner most likely is going to need some space to operate out of. Same question. Do you want to pay someone else to use their space, or do you want to own your own? Maybe you buy a building that's larger than just what you need, therefore, you can sublease out other portions. So I would argue all of us, as we look at our net worth, real estate probably should be part of the assets of part of our wealth creation. Now, it's up to each individual if they want to leverage that or not, but we're going to talk today about how you and I and through the Express Shelf Corps can help anyone get real estate. So, continuing on, innovative real estate financing options now available by leveraging a free shelf corp. Now, sometimes people get confused. They're like, well, why do we need a shelf corp if we're going to go buy real estate? There's going to be a buyer and a seller in every transaction. So, the seller is whomever you're buying the real estate from, of course. The buyer could be you as an individual, wouldn't recommend it, or your business. So we still need to have a fundable business. This isn't some different program. I don't want you all following up saying, well, where's the contract for real estate financing? No, 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 no. This is just a different use of funds. And I'm going to go through testimonials. I'm going to go through process so we all leave today understanding how we can go help clients get real estate financing. All right, so what are some important elements? This is a private lender, so this isn't the SBA. This is not normal bank financing. This is a private lender, and it's called private credit. Private credit gives us a lot of options, and I don't know if you're like me, but if you read the Wall Street Journal, there's articles almost every day about the private credit market, which essentially means lenders that are not traditional banks. Even some of the banks have started a private credit division. I think it was Ernest, remind me if it was you and I, were talking about Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and they have even started their own private credit. So private credit, it's loan still needs to be repaid, but it doesn't have the same rigors as bank financing because banks have to follow certain regulations. Private credit lenders do not. So even banks, again, I know I'm being redundant, but just to clarify, even some of the largest banks in the country are starting new private credit divisions to do these types of deals. But let's continue on. So, first of all, when it comes to financing, traditionally, lenders are looking for the borrower to have some contribution, some skin in the game. Well, that sometimes prevents some of our clients from being able to get normal financing, but through the private credit market, we can actually build a loan package that has 100% financing. So we eliminate the need to have to bring their own money to the table. Is credit an issue? It is. It is. And I know that may disappoint some of you, but it's a pretty low threshold. And as I think you all know, through our Express Shelf Corp and the grant we received, we have a free credit resource. So if clients do come in and they are below the 600 FICO, that's a very low threshold. So we can help them get above that. So I realize not everyone's like you, like Lamey, not everyone's like Lamey with a 750 credit score. But even if they are below a 600, that won't exclude them. We'll just run them through the credit program and then they'll qualify. Make sense? Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and type it into the Q&A. Selena says this is like a private money lender. Actually, no. So this is not what you would normally consider a hard money lender. This is a more attractive option than hard money lenders. Okay, moving on. Low doc underwriting. What does that mean? Less documents needed. So it's easier because again, if we're going to go through a traditional bank, banks are going to have more underwriting just because they have more regulation. Here we have low doc underwriting. In many cases, we don't need even tax returns. It's not reported on the credit. Now, why would that matter if it's not reported on credit? Well, let's look at who's on today. We have 535 of you on. Let's take Matthew, who's our branch office, owns the branch office in California, one of them in California. So what if Matthew wants to go do this 2 times or 3 times or 10 times or 20 times? By it not being reported on the credit, we can repeat this and acquire as many properties as a client could want because it's not being reported anywhere where we run into DTI issues or a maximum amount of borrowing capacity. Now, there is a max per property, and so I didn't mean to suggest that. They'll go up to 12 million per property. My point here was that we could do multiple properties. Hopefully that made sense. Very fast. Again, there's benefits of going after the private credit, going after funding in the private credit market because there's just less regulation, so it can be faster. So we're normally getting a loan commitment in about 24 hours, 1 business day. The closing is quick and pain-free. One element that's interesting, and you may or may not know this, some real estate lenders require prior experience or they won't loan money because this is not like getting a home for you and your family. Now, could you use this with your business buying a home that your family ends up moving into? Of course, but we're talking about business financing, not consumer. So to go buy a house, they don't screen you on, have you ever owned a home before? But from business real estate financing, many lenders set forth minimum experience, especially like in fix and flips. How many fix and flips have you done in the past? None. Oh, you're not qualified. In this case, we have options with no prior experience. We've already covered. Now, this is a limiting factor because some of you are big hitters. Take Tram, for example. If I recall correctly, he's typically dealing with properties that are way over 100 million. Well, this isn't going to work for everyone. So that's why I want to be transparent. We go through, we can see who it applies for, so we're all on equal footing. So up to 12 million per property. As you'd expect, long-term financing, normally you wouldn't see real estate financing beyond 30 years, but that is what's available, and even some interest-only payment options. So those are some highlights that's available through our private credit lender. Now we're going to drill into some specifics of loan types. So, as far as loan types, there are four main types. There's fix and flip, rental property loans, and then a subset of that would be short-term rentals like your Airbnbs, and then even new construction loans. So this covers a lot of the market. So is this all we do? No, we're talking about a specific type of use of funding. Sure, we still do the working capital and the acquisitions and all that. We can help with any type of business financing through the two-phase approach. I'm just describing what space this private lender is in. And if you have a background in real estate, all of this makes sense. If you don't, it may not, but it may be less applicable to you then. All right, process. We want to make sure we understand the process. So let's go through it. So first, we want the client to obviously leverage the grant and get the free shelf corp. They're going to get that through you as a reseller or as a branch office. Because as I mentioned earlier, in every transaction, there's a buyer and a seller. The seller is whoever is selling the real estate. The buyer is going to be your client's shelf corp. Make sense on number one? So this isn't a different approach. It's just simply highlighting a specific use of funds, real estate. All right, so as you know, it takes us about 7 days to deliver the Shelf Corp deliverables. So in about 7 days, we can get to the client, their Shelf Corp, and now we're ready to go into what we call phase two. We've had separate trainings on that. If you're not familiar, you can view those. But it's a quick turnaround. We only need about a 7-day lead time. So for this preferred real estate partner, here are the 3 sub-steps. First, we're going to submit an application into them. Now, this is what gets some people frustrated with us, but it's because of a lack of financial literacy. When we're pursuing real estate financing, it's for a specific piece of property. It's not for, just some property. So if we're going to do a fix and flip, we need to know what the address is of the property. If we're going to buy a rental property, if we're going to build commercial property, these are specific financing options for specific properties. So this doesn't work for someone that just says, well, I'd like to get involved with fix and flip. And we ask, well, what's the address of the residence, the property you want to buy? I don't know. We can't finance, I don't know. We'd have to go try to do that through a working capital loan where the borrower just has cash on hand. But if we're doing real estate loans are specific to a given property. Hopefully that makes sense. Kind of intuitive. Sometimes we deal with people that are lesser sophisticated, so they don't understand that. So we're going to need to submit an application. And why I digressed is the application is going to ask, what the hell do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? We don't just apply generally and say, well, I wonder what I could get approved for. No, we need to get approved for a specific property on a specific fund lending program. Hopefully that makes sense. So then our preferred lender will issue a custom quote, no credit check, with loan terms in as little as an hour, and of course, generate approval letters. Matthew's asking what the interest rate is. Well, Matthew, I know you're testing me because you're no fool. We've got to get to this point to figure out what the interest rate is. There's not some one singular interest rate that every person that every deal gets, right? That's unrealistic, but it's going to come from this quote. And then if the client doesn't like the quote, they don't accept it. And if they like it, they accept it. And then, of course, we go on for a quick closing. Does that make sense, Matthew? I think Matthew was testing me. He knows better. As far as testimonials, there's a number of testimonials there, and I can make that a little bit larger for you. But what I really want to do is answer your questions, and then also make sure, a little bit too large, make sure that we understand this is just a type, a use of funds. So from your perspective as a reseller or branch office, it's the same process, right? Client purchases a free shelf corp. Well, They don't purchase, they get it for free, but they get a free shelf quart from you. You determine what the processing fee is. They pay you for that. And then we need about 7 days to be able, so that was number one. And then number two, we need about 7 days to get the shelf corp deliverables to them. And then we can go into the funding process. So let's see what questions, concerns anyone has. So it's applicable whether we're wanting to build an auto repair shop or a professional office building or retail. So don't get too caught up in industries. This is available throughout the spectrum. Now, of course, fix and flip normally means we're going to buy something, we're going to rehab it, and then turn around and resell it quickly. So a fix and flip loan works a little bit differently, doesn't it? Here, we're probably going to also borrow the cost to do the repairs and upgrades. So that's structured different than a rental property that we're buying something to lease out, which could be a residential property or a commercial property. Short-term rentals is a unique niche whereby we're buying properties, condominiums, homes, what have you, to list with the short-term rental programs. And then, of course, new construction can be building rental homes and or building uh, commercial real estate. All right, so let's go back to the questions. Farah asked the process. Well, Farah, I mean, that's literally what I went through. You need to get the client under contract. If you're a reseller, you're going to have them sign your contract. You're going to collect the processing fee. If you're not a reseller and you want to become one, you can become one for free on 509 Pacific. If you don't want to be a reseller, I've got 540 on here right now that would probably be happy to help your clients, Farah, if you don't want to do it. But it kind of makes sense for you to get paid off of that. Claude asked about payment. Yeah, so this is the same. So all clients that go through the funding process, you get paid off of, regardless if they're getting working capital loans or real estate loans or acquisitions. So you're paid, Claude, in every case. Now, Claude, we kind of got to increase your production. You're on a couple months of having zero production. So, Claude, we're kind of to that point. We need to get off the poop or get off the pot, because I appreciate you joining the Zooms, but you're not a producer. We need to get you to be a producer. All right, Matthew does have 4 properties to move forward with, a 1.2 million property in San Diego, a 3.2 million bed and breakfast, an AirBNB for 1.5. Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah, so just we want each project to be, I'm sorry, we want each real estate acquisition to be a separate project normally, because that allows business A to own property A. So then if property A gets sued or is destroyed, or anything happens, then property A and company A are isolated from company B and property B. So normally we would want to have an entity, a shelf corp, for each capital raise. That's normal. Now, if someone's opposed to that, can we put all the properties under one shelf corp? We could, but in general, I'd recommend separating it from a liability and from a record keeping. Then it's a lot easier if the client then wants to turn around and go sell that property. They can actually sell the whole entity and get more money out of it. But yeah, Matthew, go ahead and get them enrolled. Right? Matthew, Fair, all of you that have clients, I see that there's a lot of interest. Just need to execute, because this is what we do. You handle step number one, getting the client under agreement, and then we do all the work. We take care of everything else. I'm just alerting you that we can do some really nice deals in the real estate space. John asked a good question we didn't cover. Where can the real estate be? Anywhere, U.S. or international. So that's okay. We're doing a big deal or a big property in Greece right now for a client. So let's see what other questions we have. Corey asked about the comp. So the comp's the same. We've covered that. He probably typed that before I read that. Let's see. Mark's asking about the Opportunity Fund, which is kind of off track, but yes, so you can go to 509pacific.org, and this is where, if you're not a reseller, you can go to 509 Pacific, and that's where you can get a free shelf corp. So then we can go through the process. This is where you can become a distribution partner, Mark, which is what you're asking about. So 509pacific.org, which is also our logo here. All right, Kim's asking about our real estate. Okay, so I'll tell you that story. So we started out leasing space, and we were asked by the Chamber of Commerce to actually lease the second floor of their building. This was several years ago. So we did that, I think, for 2 years, tried to buy the building, a historic, registered historic building, tried to buy that from the chamber. They wouldn't sell it to us. So we ended up buying another commercial property. That was several years ago. Had an existing structure on it and then a good sized lot. So we temporarily housed in that temporary structure, and then we've built a new building on the front of that property. I can look out my window and see it. We're hoping to move into the new building in August. The building is really move-in ready. It's permitted. Utilities are all hooked up. Insurance, they're putting the security system in. The one thing we don't have yet is the furniture. We've ordered all the furniture from a real nice vendor out of Dallas. So we're waiting for the furniture to come in, and then that's really it. Then we're ready. We already have internet live. So we're just waiting for the furniture. So we'll move into our real estate. So yes, I mean we're a I don't want to say success story, but we're an example of someone that has done this. And sometimes people make mistakes. They think, oh well, a business has to be over 2 years old or over 5 years old to be able to qualify for funding. That's not true. We actually formed 509 Pacific, so this is the name of the entity, but we actually formed this after we found the real estate property. So we formed it with the Secretary of State, and within 14 days, we closed on the property. So to us, we just thought it was novel to name the business after the street address. You might not like that, but regardless, yes, we can use Express Shelf Corps to go buy pretty much as much real estate as you want. All right, let's see. Yes, I think I follow Selena. So when you get into real estate financing, it might be multifaceted. And I kind of alluded to that, right? So it's not unusual that we'll want to get some real estate financing and maybe some also equipment financing and also some working capital financing. We talked about with fix and flip. Sometimes we need to get funding for rehab costs, but that's not a problem. We build all that in. We'll take care of that. That's where we identify what they need in A, we get them a quote in B, and as Matthew asked, what's the interest rate? I don't know. We'll find out from the quote. If they don't like it, then they go somewhere else. Thank you, Ken, for your comment. So as I look at what Raphael is alluding to, I think what Raphael is asking, okay, how do you leverage this? If you are a reseller or branch office, how do you leverage this now that you have knowledge, awareness of it? Well, you may want to have some market outreach. You could probably find people that are in the real estate space and you could educate them about this resource, these lending platforms that are available through you as a branch office and or as a reseller. But you all are really the market outreach. That's what you bring to the table. Take Toby Moore. Toby Moore, he knows more about marketing than I've twice as much as I've ever known. So that's what you all bring to the table. You got Stephanie and Selena and Toby and Mike C from the USA, as he likes to say. So, I mean, you all are marketing experts. I'm just simply giving you awareness of what's available. We know the process. We'll do all the work. and you're making 10% off of each deal, right? So if you did a $12 million deal, what would your commission be? Let me test you. Amanda, if you were to facilitate one $12 million property, what would your commission be, Amanda, off of that deal? Can you type it in, or can anyone type that into Q&A? Because you're making 5%. We charge the client 10%, but you're making 5%. So 5% of that would be $600,000 would be your commission. And to some of you like Corinthian and like Clinton, for those of you that make that much per month, it's not a big deal. But for the average person to get a 600,000 commission check is a pretty big deal. So real estate financing is nice because it typically is a bigger ticket item. Sure, we can go out and do the SBA loans and working capital loans, and nothing's changing there. But these just typically are bigger deals. And why do you like bigger deals? Because it pays more. And we have an innovative approach that I don't think that you'll find. Have any of you, before I close, have any of you found a proposition in the market space for real estate financing that has these attributes? Just curious for yes or no, if you don't mind typing in. I believe it's unique. I believe it's unusual. I think you and I have a real advantage of going to the marketplace. And everyone's saying no. I agree. I don't think that there is anything like this in the marketplace. If there were, you probably wouldn't be on the Zoom with me right now, and you'd probably be making more money than Donald Trump makes or made before he went into presidency. So when you find an outlier in the finance world, it's something to really leverage because it's something that you and I have, something that you and I know about, something that you and I can monetize that most people don't know. So it's a big deal. But this is only a big deal if you're effective in getting the word out. All right, with that being said, we'll see you back Monday morning. You can certainly go to 509pacific.org if you need more information and to get involved. Thanks so much. Have a great day, great weekend, and we'll see you back Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Thanks, 8 Central. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.